What's up, F3 Nation? Back once again for the Dark Six show. Here we are. You've got these 6 high-impact men, 5 high-impact men, and one guy who just pretends joins along with them.
I hate it when you say that about me. It cuts
Guys,
me deep.
It sure does. But you know what? It's candor, my friend. Good to see you guys. You look good. Do you feel good?
Feel great.
Feeling great, man.
Yeah.
I see this morning.
I love it, man. I love it. So here we are. It's another week. This is technically episode 2 of this new show that we've launched out here to the F3 Nation, and we drop it in the every other week newsletter. We've got it across social media channels, and man, a lot of great feedback. Helmet from the first one, man. It was exciting.
That's good. I'm glad, and I felt like it went well, and I'm excited to do this because I think it's just another way to be connected to the nation, but also to hear 5 brilliant guys and apparently me. But just to hear kind of not the official stands of the nation necessarily, but certainly just kind of diving through and kind of working through issues and things like that. So we're happy to answer questions and all that stuff. It's really good.
Yeah, for sure. If you guys didn't check out episode 1, go back and do that. We set the stage for what this is going to be and really what the intent is. And it's not to be news distribution, not to be what we do on COT or 43 Feet or even the new shows that we've got coming out now with the Stuff Worth Trying manual and the Hunt for Wellness podcast, all those things coming down the pike here soon. But to dig into issues and to dig into kind of what's happening from a deep level across the nation.
And can I drop one quick thing before we jump in too far? And that is, gentlemen, if you would write a quick note to our very own Weasel Shaker, who on my screen shows up right down there, Gobbler, because he's a new papa as of the day of this recording.
A couple hours ago.
2 hours.
I know. We're all like, why are you on this call?
6 hours ago.
6 hours.
6 hours.
And he's like, hey, honey, I'm going to go ahead and record this podcast with my idiot friends.
She was like,
actually, I think
she was like, you're hovering. Get out of here. Already.
She said, you're going stir crazy. Why don't you go record that podcast? I said, you're going to be okay? She said, I think I'll be okay. Okay.
And Gobbler texted us this morning at I don't remember what it was, his time, probably 4:00 his time, 7:00 or so my time. And it was like, we're going to go over to the birthing centers, kind of see, maybe we'll get admitted, maybe we won't. And then an hour later, it's like, oh, we got a baby.
That's pretty much how it went. Paige woke me up at 2:00, about 2:30. We had to get a friend to come over and watch. I had my girls this weekend. And so I had to get someone to come over and watch the girls. But by the time we got here at 4:30, 7:00, we got a baby.
I mean, that's
nice.
Nuts. That is nuts.
Congratulations, brother.
My wife hates you. I haven't even told her yet, but she hates you after 24 hours of labor that she went through. For.
I didn't even have time. I didn't even have time to microwave any oatmeal this morning. The baby was let me make some bread. Oh wait, he's got a baby. Well, congratulations. The girls have a little brother.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes, amazing. We're excited for you. Okay, so sorry, didn't mean to sidetrack it, but I really felt like that was an important thing for people to know.
Absolutely worthy of using the time there. Well, gents, we want to talk about stuff we're seeing and hearing. And one thing we were kicking around over the last few days, and it keeps sort of coming across all of our desks, and a lot of it relates to what's happening in Bing's department related to expansion, but then also with GMO's got going with all the new sector queues is what this expansion looks like. And a lot of questions coming in from newly formed regions with asking sort of, what can we do? What about this? What about that? What about this? So Bing, GMO, what are you kind of hearing related to guys asking a lot of what abouts?
Yeah, I think I'll take that first there, GMO, if you don't mind. I think, a lot of what we're hearing is guys saying, are we allowed to do this? Are we allowed to do that? How does this work? Are we supposed to be doing, and as much as we can cut them off, we just reiterate, guys, there's core principles. There's 5 core principles. That's all we ask that you follow. We're not asking you to follow any bylaws, come up with any kind of, written documentation of term lengths. I mean, it just seems like, a lot of guys are looking for very strict rules as to how this thing works. Core principles are guardrails. Core principles are putting them out there and really just helping us really define what we're looking for. And frankly, I think it takes a lot of pressure off of some of the regions that are starting because they're afraid they're going to screw it up. But if we go back and say, nowhere in the rules, any rules, does it say you have to do it this way, you have to do it that way? Essentially, it's 5 core principles. It doesn't ever say it has to be a ruck workout. It doesn't ever say it has to be a boot camp. You want to put a cycling group together, you're a triathlete, go ahead. As long as it's outdoors, it's free, it's open to all men, it's led in a rotation, and you end it in a circle of trust. Oh, were those the 5 core principles? There you have it. So we make it real simple, but we ask that you follow those 5. Because if you're starting to look to do things a little bit differently, and maybe it's getting cold outside, or maybe it's a little bit, easier if we were to meet over at the gym, then do that. It's just not F3. So it's that simple. I mean, GMO, what are you hearing?
Yeah, I think, there's nuances to that. There's ways that we maybe can provide guidance, pros and cons, maybe some watch outs as we start to navigate on the fringes there. One thing being free, guys expect for it to be free. And there are some things like, the 10-year, like a grow ruck, like maybe some equipment. And I know a lot of regions are putting together, fundraisers in order to provide scholarships to men who still want to participate, but they just can't afford it. There's things around free and open to all men. Well, how do we define men? And, what ages are appropriate to be in the middle of a men's workout and participate in a COT? It's great to have sons there. It's great to have kids there, but it can also prevent men from wanting to maybe open up and share their thoughts and be vulnerable or even work out next to a kid. Some guys want time away from their teenagers. Open to all men around, do you always end your COTs with a Christian prayer? And does that inspire guys to want to, who maybe aren't as comfortable with that or not Christian, to want to Q, which is getting in the way of us, promoting and really invigorating male leadership. So, some of the things we're talking about is you can do what you want. It's free to lead. You're the Q. But also just be aware of your actions and what that may do to inspire or maybe decelerate or maybe have men say they don't want to show up to some of our workouts. And that's been a pretty hot topic, I would say, at the sectors and what I see in the nation as well. So just a couple of thoughts around the fringes of the core principles.
One thing I think we consider doing, guys, as a launching off point here, as we sort of talk through those, is, I'd love to see guys submit to us some questions, or if they're having issues related to one of those core, right? And so the email address that we set up here is D6, the letter D, the number 6, D6 at F3Nation.com. You guys can send us questions to those. And quite frankly, if it's one where you want some confidentiality, say, hey guys, here's an issue we're facing. I'd love for you not to mention our region or not to mention who sent it. No worries, right? We can do that. We can use it as a great example. We'd love to use, hey, here's something that came across the desk this week and something that we see and do that. So something to consider, right? Send those to us. That email again, D6 at F3Nation.com is a great way to look at it. What do you think, Helmut?
It almost always comes back and it's hard because there's always number one, there's always a balancing act or a tension pull or however you want to look at it, right? Of information that's good and that can help. And man, if we can kind of shorten the cycle of growth and things like that for you, that's wonderful. That's part of why we're putting together that Stuff Worth Trying manual and launching a new Stuff Worth Trying podcast, spoiler alert. All those kinds of things, right? So we want to give information. We want to give you, and that's part of the reason we have any centralization at all, is to be able to provide some of those resources and things like that, but then also leave it to where men truly are free to lead, and it happens, at the local level and in those kinds of things. And so they look for guidance from the sector Qs. They look for guidance, from GMO and Bing and all these guys, all of us to try and figure out, hey, what's good. I know Slaughter and I had lunch today, and he was talking about, he's been asked and has been dropping in on regional SLT meetings to try and, these guys are asking, and they're like, hey, can you come and just kind of, give us a little insight and, talk to us a little bit. And I mean, he's a celebrity, and so I know it's a big deal. And so that's part of why they like that FaceTime with that handsome son of a gun. But at the same time, like that, I know that there's a lot of desire to know from us. And I hate that it always feels like we're kind of banging on that same drum and just going, 5 core principles, guys, 5 core principles, these are it. But really that is it. That is it. And it's difficult sometimes. That's why, the idea was put out there, and we've kind of structured it this way to where, the local regions, the sectors are where it kind of happens. And the Nantans in those sectors are where it happens, those local regions, because what's good for the guy in Tampa isn't good for the guy in Puget Sound. And it can't be, how we run something that's near Portland. Just wait, is Portland even on the map anymore? Did it burn down all the way? Is it gone?
They're rocking and rolling, dude. They're
We
rocking.
got a solid region up there.
No.
Yeah.
I meant like the city. Does the
yeah.
city exist anymore?
Just our region. Just our region.
Just our region. That's it.
Nothing else.
Wherever the shovel flag is the new capital. That must be.
Yes.
But you know, the things that are done there obviously are very different than, you know, and so it has to be done at the local level. And the only thing that we have, especially at the nation level, to offer is say, well, we can talk to you and we can kind of give you some advice or some direction or whatever around what those core principles, you know, might play out like where you are. But ultimately, that's it. You know, it's the 5. And I think sometimes it's been really helpful for guys to hear that, you know, because we're men and we want things a certain way. And especially if we live in a very corporate environment, you know, we like to have kind of a marching orders and a list of things like how this is how it's got to go. And, you know, we want structure and we want this. I mean, it's going to vary, not just from region to region. Sometimes it's going to vary from Nantan to Nantan. You know, some guy's going to come in next and be like, you know what, I think it's fine for, you know, 16-year-old kids to come.
Right.
And that's going to be something guys are going to have to deal with on that local level. I can't tell you, you know, and it's interesting and not to get too far, me talk too much or whatever, but there are laws in certain states, and I can't remember which one it was now, but somebody said, you know, the legal age that a person is an adult in this state is different than it is in this other state. I had no idea, you know, and they're like, well, we can't have, you know, if they're not an adult, I think it's like a year off. It's like 18 pretty much everywhere. But then in this state, it's like 19. And so, you know, they're like, we don't want guys to come in unless they're 19.
Yeah.
Okay. You know, I would have known that. I would have said, well, this is the rule, you know, because this is what I know and doesn't do any good. So we have to be pretty generous on how we interpret that sort of thing.
We had one region where the dad was dropping his sons off, not with the other guys. So it can be a slippery slope.
Right. And you got to deal with that. And I know in CSD, I saw you nod. And what would you have something you want to throw in there?
Not on that topic. No, sorry.
Oh, okay.
Are you dropping your kids off? Is that what's happening?
Like, I don't want to say anything. Oh, I was like,
no, I mean, in Cherokee, we have we have a lot of like dedicated 2.0 workouts, and I think they're great. We have some workouts where you come and you can expect that there are going to be kids there, and that's well known, right? So if what you're trying to do is to break away a little bit, you don't go to that workout, and it works great that way. And for us, that's how it works. But that rolls around to the same discussion we keep on having. It's what's right for your to whatever your region does.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, I feel like a lot of the times we see so much conversation around 1 and 2, you know, but also, and even 3 to an extent. I kind of challenge the guys to be thinking about 4, right? So peer led in a rotating fashion. Like, how's that look in your region right now? Is it the same guys? To give you an example, we had a lot of guys running the BRR. Well, the Q sheet, the few weeks around the event has been pretty barren, right? So that means a lot of those guys who are running tend to queue a lot. And so I think it's worth taking a look at, like really leaning in on peer-led in a rotating fashion, because that's where the invigoration of male community leadership comes from. You're giving guys an opportunity to lead that maybe never have led before. And so there's a lot of nuance around free and all men for sure, right? There's a lot of nuance around, well, what if we do a swimming workout in a pool and it's just us guys and we get the whole pool to ourselves? And I know we're inside, but it's right. There's a lot of nuance in that. But what's number 4 look like in your region too? I think that's something worth taking a look at.
Yeah, I think sometimes the site Q thinks he's got to queue a lot of the workouts, and you know, you can certainly see when a guy first gets the courage to co-queue or queue, and then he starts getting excited about giving his workout away. He starts inviting his buddies, and it's really an accelerator for expansion as well.
Yeah,
Cobb, you had some.
You know, on that one, we always talk about. We focus on the positive side of that core principle most of the time, which is, hey, we got to get guys to queue, got to get guys to queue, got to get guys to queue, which is exactly where we should spend 80% of our time on that core principle talking about, because that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to invigorate male community leadership. And the first step on that is getting them out in front of other men and leading them in the workout. But I've also noticed that sometimes when you were, if you're an SLT, take a step back and look at your cue sheet. See if you can find a guy who never does anything but queuing. There's guys out there, and I've talked to regions, they're like, man, look at this guy. He just hops around and always queues. And they're like, should we be worried about that? And I was like, maybe. I don't know, right? You're there, you're proximate. I said, but if you've got a guy who's unwilling to humble himself to let another man lead him in a workout, and he's unwilling to do that, then yes, you do have a problem and you need to address it. Not there, don't know the man, but it's like 80-20 rule, right? 80% of the time we focus over here on trying to get guys to queue. Every once in a while, take a step back and see if you've got a guy that just has a problem with followership, because we don't talk about it a lot, but if you can't follow the mission given to you, you can't lead the other men that you need to lead. Like, leadership starts with following the mission given to you. And that's one of that is a key part of core principle number 4, is not just that other men are leading, but you are taking a turn to follow, and you're sucking it up and doing burpees when you don't want to do burpees.
Yeah.
Good answer, Big Papa.
He's been waiting on the sound effect machine for 23 minutes at this point. He finally got it.
You know, I think we recognize too, we talk a lot about the first FQ, right? Queuing a workout, but there's lots of other opportunities to queue source, queue a charity event, the host queue for a Grow Ruck. We got Iron Packs queues. You know, so I think it's always looking for a way to encourage a man, to exhort him into stepping up to take a leadership role.
You know, and you bring up a couple of good points. Gobbler mentioned it, and Jim, I mean, everybody kind of said it in some way or other, but, you know, there's the 5 core principles, but then there's kind of like also the, almost like the unwritten parts, you know, like you bring up, Kitty, right? So like, it's free. Okay. But that also means, you know, not just that we're not going to charge you money, but also that we're going to seek to lower every barrier possible. Right. It's open to all men. That kind of also infers that it's not open to women, you know, like, it's outdoors, but that kind of, you know what I mean? Like, there's kind of the principle behind that principle. Like, if you dig a couple layers, and I really love what you said about number 4, and I never actually even thought of it that way, to be honest.
That's great.
That, you know, it's not just that it's rotating amongst the packs, but it's also, how are you trying to create and look for opportunities to create leadership for men? You know, I mean, I talk about it like that, but I never thought about it in terms of that being part of the 4th core principle. I really love that.
And I think sometimes, you know, I had an example of this a couple weeks ago where I was leading to work and I looked around the circle and I just said, who hasn't queued yet? Right. Like, just, you know, at one of our better AOs, at one of our OG AOs. And one guy's been coming out, you know, 6-7 months at some point, put his hand up. And I said, well, come on out here. Right. And so we started doing some warm-ups together, right? Folded him in the mix. Hey man, the expectation is you're going to lead this thing. So even as leaders, you know, in our regions, as all you guys are, and guys that are watching this as well, if you're watching this, you're taking time to watch this, you're likely a leader in your region. You know, maybe even look for those opportunities and throw a curveball at the guys. And little impromptu Q school never hurt anybody during the middle of a beatdown either. It's one of the highlights of the King Builder. Anytime you've been to, right, a big F3 convergence or GTE event, is watching those new guys take that on. It doesn't add any extra time to the workout. You can still get a great beatdown in by having a guy come out and call cadence on side straddle hops or something. And it continues to hammer that home. That guy then signed up the very next week to lead a workout by himself. I mean, do I get all the credit? Yeah, probably. That's not the point, right? It's just getting guys to do more. CSD.
One of our favorite games is to do some competition at a workout, regardless of what that competition is. And if you're queuing, you go ahead and let them know that they're going to win a great prize at the end of it. And when they win, they get to queue the next workout, the next available slot. So it's not an option at that point in time. You just got tricked by the site queue.
That's great.
And you know what though? As funny as that sounds, it actually, these guys step up and they do it, and it gets new guys in there that are typically not the normal cycle queues. It's you know, it's a thing, but it works.
Because I think one thing we need to think about when we talk about these 5 core principles is, you know, when you get a downrange guest or you've got somebody coming into your region that maybe has done F3 somewhere else, you know, essentially that downrange guest, does your activities mirror those of other regions? We're not telling you it has to be identical. In fact, we tell our guys to go travel, see what might be different, and then come back and bring different ideas. You get in a rut with certain warm-up exercises, whatever it might be. But I think ultimately, you know, one of the ideas behind the core principles is to make sure that there's consistency, and that when you know, people are traveling, when people drop in on markets, or when someone's looking to start this thing, there's some level of consistency, and the core principles help define what that consistency is.
We've come back with an ask for another core principle as show up on time.
we do have.
I just rolled in like a casual bunch of
punctuality.
We do have punishments for that too. If you're late, burpee per minute.
10 burpees.
Yeah.
Hey guys, speaking of timing, we're trying to keep this show tight and right. So we're already up against it on this episode. Good stuff though, man. I like the way the conversation developed here and we got to do that. That email address again, before we go, d6@f3nation.com. You can always find all of us on pretty much every platform imaginable. But send us what's going on in your areas. Sector Q's funnel things up to GMO, and we'll use this platform as an opportunity to talk about it.
Bing, you still got your MySpace page up for those guys too?
I do actually, but I keep it private. At least I used to.
All right, gentlemen, let's call it a wrap from there. Until next time, we'll keep picking up your 6 because you've got ours. We'll see you later.
Let's go.
Donuts.
Love you guys.